In 1898, a little-known author named Morgan Robertson wrote a remarkable piece of fiction about a luxurious ocean liner larger than any ship existing in its time. This ship, labeled Unsinkable, struck an iceberg one starry April night and sank in the cold waters of the North Atlantic. 14 years after this book was published, a British shipping company, the White Star Line, built a vessel almost exactly the same dimensions as those imagined by Robertson in his novel. And one starry night in the North Atlantic, the Titanic struck a giant iceberg and vanished beneath the seas. Now, the similarities are truly incredible. But the most startling parallel of all, Robertson named his fictional ship the Titan. Its real-life counterpart, as we all know, is the Titanic.
Iceberg, dead ahead, sir!
Iceberg, dead ahead, sir.
When the Titanic went down, nations around the world were stunned. It became known as the worst maritime disaster in history. Millions of people lost confidence in technological progress. No other modern event has inspired such a steady and overwhelming flow of books, poems, songs, and movies. Lost in the depths of a dark and frozen sea, the Titanic has captivated the public imagination for decades. Around the world, explorers have launched unprecedented expeditions in search for the truth about the Titanic. At the renowned Explorers Club in New York City, this incredible expedition, more than 5 years in the planning, receives best wishes and words of wisdom from famed radio commentator Lowell Thomas.
And of course, I told about the sinking of the Titanic, which is one of the major naval disasters of all time.
Expedition leader Michael Harris announces dramatic plans to search for and locate the great ship Titanic, and then to actually film the famous vessel as it lays in its watery grave more than 2 miles beneath the storm-tossed North Atlantic seas.
But we all intend to discover the Titanic. Why was it going through iceberg-infested waters at 22.5 knots?
The search is being financed by Texas oil man Jack Grimm, a daring investor well known for his support of adventurous and difficult expeditions.
And that's one of the answers that we hope to find when we reach the Titanic.
It's a big, dark ocean. The uncertainty of you...
Technological and scientific activities will be coordinated by Dr. William Ryan from Columbia University's Lamont Doherty Geological Observatory.
That radius, the difference of those positions, you have a real piece of real estate the size of Rhode Island.
And of course, where the Titanic is and what's left of it is a great mystery. And if Mike Harris and Mr. Grimm and their colleagues can solve that riddle, it will certainly be a magnificent thing to accomplish. And I'm sure that everyone connected with the Explorers Club is anxious to cooperate in some small way. And good luck to you, Mike, and good luck to you, Mr. Grimm, and so long until tomorrow.
On July 7th, 1980, the 39-member crew assembles at the Marine Shipyard in Port Everglades, Florida, in preparation for an historical voyage. Using the most advanced oceanographical equipment available, they will scour the ocean floor in an area 300 miles southeast of Cape Grace, Newfoundland. Somewhere 13,000 feet below, in the dark, icy waters, they hope to locate and photograph the wreck of the unsinkable Titanic. For 6 weeks, members of the expedition team will live and work aboard the research vessel H.J.W. Fay, constantly monitoring advanced surveillance instruments. Signals will be processed with shipboard computers, generating images and magnetic profiles of the ocean floor. Dr. Fred Spees, director of the Marine Physical Laboratory of the Scripps Institute of Oceanography, will direct the complex underwater survey at sea. The expedition will actually be split into 2 phases. The first phase, which the research team is about to embark on, will involve the difficult task of locating the Titanic and positively identifying it with photographic evidence. Once the ship is found, the research team will begin making plans to return the following summer for Phase 2. In this second phase, the world's deepest diving aluminum submarine, the Illuminant, will descend upon the wreck of the Titanic with an 8-man crew. There, in the dark, bone-crushing depths, they will record on film the legendary Titanic. Meanwhile, the crew readies the maze of unique equipment for the complex search operation that lies ahead. Each system, each component within that system must be thoroughly tested, put through its paces under the most extreme conditions to be sure it will function at the moment of truth. Below the decks, the technicians and scientists struggle with a mass of wires, tubes, and electronic gear. They hook up the enormous bank of computers and delicate navigational systems.
Can you give us a shout at the outgoing pulse?
Think. Got it? Oh, nice audio. I'm trying to phase up that
When the
radar.
elaborate electronics apparatus is finally switched on, Surprisingly, everything works. Normally skeptical, the scientists are delighted and amazed. With all the gear and personnel loaded on board and the technical equipment fully operational, the HJW Faye makes preparations to sail.
Okay, Chief, we're all set to go.
It's the beginning of an unprecedented voyage into history. 39 men, aided by the most advanced technology that science has available, setting out to unlock the mysteries of the glorious old ocean liner once thought to be indestructible. On that terrible, chaotic night in April of 1912, a dream was suddenly transformed into a nightmare. Overconfidence and arrogant pride was swallowed up by the relentless dark sea. And now, in the quiet and solitude of the Florida night, everyone aboard the research vessel Faye is careful not to whisper any claims of being unsinkable.
Good trip. Relax. Don't hit any icebergs.
Thanks.
Steady. Steady.
Off the coast of Florida, the crew makes preparations to test the bluefish and to calibrate the sensitive instruments under deep water conditions. To help out, the U.S. Navy has given the expedition special permission to conduct a trial run using the wreck of an old sunken Navy freighter called the Briggs. The system will be lowered into the water in the general vicinity of the wreck and then towed across the area, covering a path 5 kilometers wide. When the Briggs is finally located, actual distances will be cross-checked against those indicated on the bluefish instruments in order to verify the accuracy of the sonar signals. The trial run is essential to ensure that precise readings will be obtained during the actual search for the Titanic's location.
Top side's up. Are all the pulse links down?
Pulse links 0.
Okay. Transmitter's off. Okay, power it up then. Let's go.
Okay, power up.
An air of tension runs through the crew during this first equipment test. If everything goes smoothly without any hitches, they would consider it a good omen. A malfunction could cast a shadow over the expedition. Four strategically placed television cameras constantly monitor all phases of shipboard activity. Below decks, in the command center, science team leaders can closely watch the progress of each simultaneous step and make instant changes and decisions. But for now, the atmosphere is casual, relaxed. The bluefish will take nearly 2.5 hours to descend 10,000 feet to the ocean floor.
Baked potato with sour cream and chives, mixed vegetables, a tossed green salad with, believe it or not, on a boat in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, garden fresh vegetables. And I'll tell you, you can't beat a dinner like that. Come on, boys, let's get some dinner here. Come on up now, don't be bashful. Let's go, we're having lobster tonight, baked potatoes, vegetables, salad. Help yourself to some garden fresh salad now. How you doing tonight, Hank?
Good. How about you?
Fine, just fine.
Delicious meal.
It's like every night on board, you know.
That's right.
You got the best type of people on board, you might as well feed them to death. Guys, come on up. Keep that, guys. Come on, get on that.
Then, as darkness falls, the first crisis of the expedition occurs. The side scan sonar unit fails and must be raised to the surface. Jim Chrysalis is worried that water has somehow leaked into the tightly sealed unit, damaging the extremely delicate circuits inside. Initial examination of the bluefish reveals no sign of external damage. It is carefully moved to a well-lighted area where it can be studied more thoroughly.
Well, if there's any water in it, there's not much. That's no water, it's oil. Well, that's good news. Now we gotta find the ground ball.
Listen, do you want
Good news, Bill.
tents out?
Pardon me?
You want to take both ends out, or you want to check this out first?
I think we're gonna have to take both ends out because we might as well continue looking for the noise problem we had, as long as we've got it in here now.
All right. What's the good news?
The good news is that there's no water in there.
There's no water. Why would it lose power?
No idea. We'll have to look for that. But I'd much rather have it lose power for an unknown reason than lose power because it was full of water. So that's the good news.
The side scan problem proves to be more serious than first expected, requiring several days of intricate repairs in Bermuda. On the way there, tests will be conducted on a specially designed camera sled. The sled is actually a triangular-shaped metal housing that contains high-resolution video cameras. When lowered beneath the seas, it will transmit television images to monitors aboard ship. This will enable the scientists to study geographical formations and topographical contours on the ocean floor. Once the location of the Titanic has been pinpointed, the sled will descend on the wreck, and for the first time, man will see the haunting vision of his own boastful miscalculation. A luxury liner so perfect that it was deemed indestructible, now resting beneath almost 3 miles of icy water. Video cameras are firmly secured in watertight cases and locked into position. Lightweight panels are then attached to the triangular frame to prevent the camera sled from getting hung up on the wreck. This protective measure will prove extremely valuable when working around the Titanic itself, where if the camera sled became caught on protruding metal, the long cable to the surface could snap, sending 12,000 feet of heavy cable spiraling down over the ship like a mass of tangled spaghetti. If that occurred, it would be far too dangerous for the Illuminaut to navigate around the Titanic during Phase 2 operations. As the camera system drops below the surface, scientists and expedition team members watch the progress on a bank of television monitors. Anything the camera sees will be recorded on videotape for review again at a later time.
What's the overall opinion of the test that we've been having? TV looks good?
TV looks very good. We haven't certainly had thought we'd have to work a lot harder to make some sacrifices to get that TV to work, and it's really come through very nicely. Yeah, super.
You like this real-time TV? And you can see what's happening, but is that...
Well, I think that's going to be very useful when we put it down in the vicinity of the wreck.
Suddenly, a strange shape moves across the video camera lens, practically blocking it. At first, it's thought to be a large shark, investigating the odd contraption that has dropped into his world.
The weird thing we're seeing here is the panels that have fallen off. What's caused that, Bill?
Well, we overlooked the...
According to Dr. Ryan, the force of underwater currents has torn the panels off the camera sled frame. Designers of the system have failed to accurately take into account the enormous stress factor created at extreme depths. The camera sled is hauled to the surface with 2 of the 3 panels dangling from the bottom. Although faced with the immediate disappointment of yet another disrupted trial run, The crew is elated to discover that the photographic and video gear is still intact and fully operable. In celebration of the successful video run by the sled, the ship's colorful chef, Al Kaplan, has baked a cake, but one very important part is missing.
I want to ask you one question.
Yes.
The Titanic had 4 stacks. Where's the 4th stack?
Oh, gee. You know, that's been the story of my life. I've always been missing the stacks.
Okay, all right.
The research vessel Faye departed Bermuda on July 26 and set course for the North Atlantic, according to the coordinates given by the Titanic's last SOS. The luxury liner was sinking somewhere in this area, more than 300 miles south of Newfoundland and east of Nova Scotia. Now it will take nearly 3.5 days to reach the site. Time for each person to reflect on the great adventure ahead. Bill Stevenson, author of the book on the Titanic expedition.
Curiously, my grandfather was captain of the last of the China clippers, and he just got into telegraphy. And when I was a very small kid, he used to tell me about the Titanic as a lesson. He was a Scots Bible thumper. And he said, my boy, never get arrogant, because the Titanic taught all of us a severe lesson. And it's been in my head ever since. It's part of legend. And I thought I'd like to come along and do a book on the discovery of the Titanic.
Did you hear anything about finding the Titanic, or is it just another job to you?
Oh, well, it's a job, but I hope that we do find it. It's a lot of expense and time and effort gone into it. And I hope it's a successful trip.
The place at which Titanic thought it was at the time it sent out its SOS signal is right here at this spot we've labeled Site 1.
Let's put it, we got one
Some
bill.
kind of a marker on there. She was headed in this way, ran into the ice pack that was about in here somewhere. The next nearest ship was the Californian, which was headed in pretty much the same direction and was ahead of Titanic. When she got to the ice along about 10 o'clock at night, her company policy was that they would stop and just wait it out. So she stopped, and it was while she was stopped that Titanic came in and
Hit the ice.
Hit the ice.
Yeah.
Some people think that people on the Titanic could see the Californian, in which case one of these two positions is in error because they're too far apart for that in any realistic way. So the Titanic could conceivably have been up as far north as here if the Californian's position was right.
Or if, in fact, we find the Titanic here where she thought she was, then, in fact, the Californian has to be down here.
Either that or it exonerates Captain Lord of the Californian, but who claimed that he was too far away to have been any use. That's just one of the arguments that will resurface, I presume,
And we
no matter what happens.
hope we'll be able to clear that up.
Right.
142, right next to
As the ship nears the vast ocean area southeast of Cape Grace, Newfoundland, optimistic crew members and hopeful scientists form a lottery to guess the exact latitude and longitude where the Titanic will be found.
This is the Cuban know-how now. Got all the scientists here, but it's a matter of the numbers. As my bag. Here we
Only
go.
4. Hey, wait a minute.
Hold it.
I heard about you kind of guys.
We got a bouncer here, you know.
Hey, you
Here we
can't pull
go.
any out of your pocket. You got 4 there? Let me see those 4 right there. Put them down. Put them down.
So, yeah, it sounds like a Keno game in Vegas.
Approaching the site historically considered to be the location of the Titanic's last coordinates, the researchers launch a series of 3 transponders. They're dropped in the ocean at 5-mile intervals in a triangular pattern around the site. Once in position on the ocean floor, the transponders will serve as constant reference points in the search operation. As signals are sent out from the ship at regular intervals and then bounce back, this will allow the scientists to pinpoint precise locations of objects thought to be the Titanic.
Lower this slowly. Lower this slowly.
Now, watch your sink.
There she goes.
Let's hope this is not another disaster at sea. My God, been thinking about it. Hey, a fish is nibbling at the line. That's what's wrong. It's thinking. There it goes. Goodbye. Down it goes. Now, there's the final. One more success.
As we came into the area, we headed north. The terrain was fairly smooth, and then we came across the sharp canyon that marks the southern part of the area, and continued to steam north. You can see that the topography is somewhat rough, and at this point we began launching a transponder. You can see the signal calling the transponder is this mark along in here. The transponder is now on its way down, and we'll have our first really fixed reference point in the area based on that transponder.
In this animation, a signal is sent out by the ship's echo sounder and then bounced back by the transponders. A device towed under the ship interprets the returning signal, and this transmits the information to computers on board for analysis by the scientific team. Next, the crew launches the repaired Bluefish. A large yellow fin has been attached to the top with a magnetometer secured to the center. This device will measure fluctuations in the Earth's magnetic field and pinpoint any unusual large metallic objects.
Rich, this is the lab. Will you come right to course 245?
Roger that. Come right to 245.
You give me forward ahead 150 RPM, 150 RPM.
Port engine ahead, 150 RPM.
The side-scanned sonar on the Bluefish emits a pulse that literally paints a computerized two-dimensional acoustic image of the ocean floor. Coupled with magnetic profiles created by magnetometer readings, the images can easily detect the outlines of an object as large as the Titanic's sunken hull and even reveal details of the superstructure. Scientists will use this information to piece together a mosaic composite of the wreck, verifying that it is indeed the Titanic.
The fish right now is interrogating them, and we're getting replies. We've passed this one a while back. In fact, we just have passed this. The ship is located here. In about another half hour, at about 8:30, we should be passing the historical site of the Titanic with the fish. And in fact, we will cover the actual location of where it may have gone down during that time. That might be pretty exciting.
Yep. And then the plan will be, of course, if we don't find it, then we'll go on up here another 3 miles, turn back and make a heading and come back and cover it on another time, right?
We'll cover it another time. We'll overlap our beams each time so we make sure that we're not missing any particular part.
That's beautiful. We are finishing
the research team has searched for 4 days and covered more than 300 miles of the ocean floor. But still, nothing is found. As the search area widens, hope for an immediate discovery begins to dim.
Miles an hour. And we've taken a track down here into the wind.
It's pointing because the compass is depleted.
Then, another crisis. The magnetometer begins to behave erratically, providing signals that are strangely inconsistent. It is feared that powerful currents in the deep reaches of the ocean are playing havoc with the stability of the bluefish, ravaging the large tail fin.
They're very erratic. The vertical field used to be at something on the order of 46,000 gammas or something like that. Well, it's cycling down to 20,000. Right.
So what, the side scan seems to be working, but you think it's a problem in the magnetometer?
All the acoustic stuff seems to be working right fine.
The reason we may have to bring it up because of that is that since the magnetometer sits in the tail, if what has happened is that one of the guy wires on the tail or something is broken, then the vehicle may not be towing proper along the track. And if the vehicle turns around and decides to go sideways, which a vehicle like that could, if it had no drag in the after end, then the side scan would be a fore and aft scan, and we wouldn't have our 6 kilometers worth of sweep weight.
But without stability, there's no point in pursuing the survey. We'll bring her up and fix the tail.
I think that's a good idea.
The cause of the abnormal magnetic readings can be seen at first glance. The entire tail section housing the magnetometer has been ripped off by the tremendous wave action. A military plane is observed by the crew of the Faye, mysteriously making low-altitude runs across the search area. Then on one overhead approach, the plane releases a series of metal canisters in the water. These are later determined to be submarine tracking devices. Why is a military aircraft conducting such tight surveillance on a well-publicized research expedition? The answer becomes clear when a Russian submarine is suddenly spotted running parallel patterns to the Faye. What possible concern could the crew of a Russian submarine have for a group of scientists and adventurers in search of a sunken ocean liner? Was it the fascination of imminent historical discovery that lured them to this area of the vast ocean? Or was there some other more questionable motive? While the entire world waited for the word of success, the Russians hung on tenaciously, like an underwater detective shadowing a suspect.
I think it is. I don't know. I think it's going over to this. Yeah, that's part of that package there. That has to be redone. Yeah, right.
A new stabilizer fin, minus the magnetometer, is attached to the bluefish. Little time is lost getting it back into the water. Those on the Faye are determined neither bad weather nor a persistent sub will deter them from discovering the Titanic.
No way, baby. It's connected to pretty good.
device that could measure the magnetic field on 3 axes.
The magnetometer has been irretrievably lost, but not scientific ingenuity. Jim Chrysolis and Bob Bookbinder gather a mismatch of spare parts, ranging from discarded wire to a plastic shampoo bottle, and cleverly fashion them into a simple but workable magnetometer.
And our
Supply of wire is minimal.
took apart an old motor to get some wire and some current transformers. We hope to use these coils as the basis of the magnetometer. Inside here goes a small plastic bottle of water. You use distilled water in here and measure the precession frequency of protons around the Earth's field. There's an amplifier we've cobbled together on this circuit board with a circuit that alternately polarizes and depolarizes the field coils. So we're about to test this thing, and hopefully this afternoon we can put it in the water and see how well it works.
Rich, will you give me port ahead 150 RPM, 150 RPM?
All right, Mr. Bridge, you want to come ahead on the port engine 150, roger that.
Thank you. Give me a heading of 270.
Right at 270.
Man, there's something out there.
It really is. It's a nice big echo right there. You can see it about 2/3 of the way across the
You
screen.
can't tell, though, if it's a geological formation or a ship or what.
No, we can't.
Except on the recorder, if it's nice and sharp, then it should be
That's
something.
right. As we finish the scan, as we get past it, if that signal dies out, everything else stays the same, then you'll be able to identify it as an isolated target.
I don't know, Chuck. We got some small problems. Got a hurricane heading this way and a gale heading this way. I don't know what's going to hit us first. That sounds great, doesn't it? Charming, just charming.
Yeah, what do we got for the weather?
We got bad weather, Michael, very bad.
Yeah, I can tell that coming up outside.
Okay, we've got two problems. One is a gale center coming north of us that we've been experiencing for the last couple days. Two systems. This is the third one in about a week. Unfortunately, this is going to pass about 120 miles closer than the last two.
Thought we were supposed to have good weather today.
We should have had a break today.
Yeah.
This gale center is...
What's the barometer doing?
She's dropping now, so it's getting closer.
Yeah. What good news have you got?
The hurricane's not here yet. That's the good news.
Hurricane?
Hurricane, yes, sir.
The jury-rigged magnetometer is placed in a silver pressurized container to give the lightweight device enough stability. It's encased in a large metal weight, appropriately dubbed the Yellow Pig. Hopefully, this added bulk will allow the makeshift instrument to safely ride out the savage currents below.
Now, let the strain go. Yep. Let it stop rolling for a minute there. Down on the main. Up on the dip. Level right there. Hold it. Okay. Now. Ready, John? Ready? Okay. Up gently on the wind. Good fellas. Hold it.
The search goes on, while the exhausted crew maintains a desperate night vigil. With the camera sled unable to descend, Faye's last hope for discovery lies with the makeshift magnetometer. Suddenly, the magnetometer signal fails. The final chance for success is gone. Outside, the powerful sea continues to batter the ship unrestfully. Once again, triumphant over the technological presumptions of mere mortal men. The Titanic, an engineering masterpiece. In her time, she represented the sum of man's technological genius. Now, at the bottom of the dark, forbidding sea, she is tenaciously protected by the force that put her there. Engulfed in a haze of mystery and speculation, she resides seductively just beyond our grasp. But that's soon to change. Let's examine the accomplishments of the first phase of the expedition. When cross-checking detailed contour charts, Dr. Ellen Herron discovered an unusual target. The target was located here. The revolutionary side-scan sonar, developed by James Chrysalis, revealed a target with the same basic proportions as the Titanic. Also at this location. Now, according to the established fact, the Titanic struck an iceberg here and drifted to the northeast, putting the historical site of the sinking at the very same spot. So all the evidence seems to point to a specific area, the precise location of the unsinkable Titanic. Well armed this time with the certainty of exact coordinates and the versatile capabilities of the deep submersible Illuminaut, the expedition team will return to the North Atlantic next summer for the second phase of the expedition. And there, the intrepid adventurers will descend to the ocean floor and finally touch the incredible Titanic.